Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I have not one but two fantastic guests that I know that you're just going to love getting to know. Dr. Crystal Gueldner of Crystal Clear Eye Care is well known, as is her colleague who's here with her today, Mandi Bernard. These women are a dynamic duo that just kick butt in all phases of lives. You know, they're super moms that take care of their kids and do a first-class job as wives, as moms, as, you know, I see them around the park in Little League, you know, all over. But they're also world-class professionals. They are better with eye care than anybody you'll meet. They do a wonderful job. And best of all, they do that right here in the heart of downtown Ponchatoula. So with no further ado, welcome to the show, Dr. Crystal Gueldner and Mandi Bernard. How are you doing, ladies?
Hello. Doing good. We're great.
That's great. I am not a professional broadcaster. Okay, this is just a hobby, a side hustle, if you will. So forgive me if my interviewing skills are a little rusty, and it's going to be a challenge perhaps to interview two of you at the same time. So feel free to chime in at any time, one or the other. But of course, at some time here, we're going to have to kind of take our turns. And Mandi, since you were here in Ponchatoula first, as a local girl who grew up in Ponchatoula and did the PHS thing like me, if you don't mind, Dr. Gueldner, I'll start with your colleague, Mandi. Mandi, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
All right. I was actually not born, but raised in Ponchatoula. Attended Ponchatoula schools my whole life, Ponchatoula High, Southeastern.
I think you were a freshman at PHS when I was a senior. Is that right?
Yes, I was a little
I won't give away your age by saying what year that was. It's one of those miracles of time travel that the young Mandi Bernard could be there with an old gray beard like myself.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. I was a little freshman when Parker was a senior. So yes, I played sports in high school, softball, ran cross country, did some track, involved in a lot of clubs. And
tell us about that. Who were the coaches back then? Because I know it's pretty much changed hands for softball and all the other stuff you did.
Softball, it was Coach Luke.
Oh yeah.
There were some assistants that floated in and out, but mostly it was Coach Luke. And then cross country was of course Coach Mate. And
yeah. And did you guys win the state championship in cross country? Weren't y'all really good back then?
Really good. Yeah, we sure were. Those girls were pretty awesome. Every year we definitely we at least competed. But the older girls and closer to your class, that I think they won.
Yeah, no, they were great. I mean, the great Jennifer Howes outran everybody in the state, but they had a bunch of other great runners, Amanda Bridges and Heather Niehaus Perrin, Amanda Bridges Richard now, I should say, and her daughters now. I mean, you know, we've got a resurgence at PHS cross country, and Amanda and Chad Richard's daughters are kicking butt over there. Their daughter Marley in particular is one of the top runners in the state. So your program is alive and well in cross country. So softball, cross country. What else did you play? You sound like quite the jock.
I don't know about that. I was always active. And when I finished high school, taught aerobics at Southeastern. I fell into that.
Cool.
So I always stayed pretty active. The only most thing keeping me active now is children, but so I don't have as much time for those fun activities.
Well, I know you've got your handful. You know, you have your beautiful daughter Berkeley and your son Gage. And how old are they now? They're both like 10 and under, right? What's their age? What's the age range?
Right. Berkeley is 10 and Gage is 5.
Yeah. Well, I saw you in, I think, Rouse's the other day with your kids, and I was impressed. Your kids are big enough that they can push the cart now. Mine are still catching a ride with dad and you know, doing their best to flip the cart and jump out and all that. So that's fun.
They've surpassed the ride in the cart for sure. The girls are way too fast.
Well, what did you study at Southeastern? We talked a little bit about PHS. What did you do in college?
I was at Southeastern. It was general study. What was that?
Okay. I'm sorry. We must have a connection issue. I was asking about Southeastern and what you studied.
Right. I started out in athletic training and kinesiology, and kind of found that that wasn't the direction I wanted to go. I loved being active, but those jobs were, professional coaching and athletic training with those jobs didn't come often often, excuse me. And so I kind of gravitated. I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go, and ended up doing mostly general studies, and that's how I fell into eye care. It was a complete. Honestly, I don't know what brought me there, but it was highly addictive once I got there. So that's how I landed. I wasn't one that finished high school with I didn't have I didn't know since I was small that I wanted to be a teacher, a nurse, or doctor. Or anything like that. So I wanted to do a little bit of everything. That's why this definitely fits my personality well.
I can relate to that. My brother Bree wore a badge and went to career day or whatever in kindergarten. He said he wanted to be sheriff. I mean, just always knew. But I was all over the place. I want to be a doctor this week and something else the next. And I ended up with none of the above. Here I am. So I can relate to that. Well, before we leave the topic of school, let's circle back to PHS. Tell us a little bit about the people who made an impact on you while you were there. It could be teachers, coaches, even other classmates, friends but when you think back about your PHS days, who are the people that come to mind first? And, what could you tell us about them?
I have to say, and I have this written in my senior scrapbook, my all-time favorite teacher while I was there was Miss Summers.
She was awesome.
She was better than the best. I took classes I didn't need just so I could have her. But when I was a freshman, you got to choose an elective, and I already had the French 1 credit, so it was natural for me to choose French 2, but that wasn't available. So I ended up in speech. What do they call it? Did they call it speech then?
Yeah, they called it speech and drama, as I recall.
Right. So it was with all juniors and seniors. And as a freshman in high school, I was the most shy, quiet person that you could ever meet. And I ended up in this class.
That's hard to believe, knowing you now.
I know, definitely. But I ended up in this class with all juniors and seniors, and there was myself and I think maybe 2 other freshmen. And she just made me feel so comfortable. That was so not my lane at all.
Right.
Speaking in front of the class and everything about it. I mean, I kind of feel like she's a little responsible for kind of bringing me out of my shell some. So thanks, Miss Summers.
I'm so glad you mentioned her. Miss Miriam Summers, her maiden name Dahmer, is an absolute local legend and a wonderful educator. Mandy, I had a very similar experience, except I was one of those juniors and seniors when I took her class. But she was just great, and she was such a mentor. And when I was class president, I had to give the speech at graduation, and that was nerve-wracking. And she walked me right through it. She let me come over to her house and plan the speech out, and she helped organize it. And just a wonderful woman. I've been blessed to know her my whole life, and she was a great educator. So thanks for giving her much due props.
Yes,
that's really cool.
She deserves it.
Dr. Gueldner, we have left you on the sidelines for far too long. It's unfair that you weren't born here, so we could have started with that.
No.
But the time has come. Tell us about your background and how you got here to Ponchatoula.
Sure. So I'm from Texas, a little town called Palacios, right on the coast.
Okay.
So I graduated high school in 2003, and then I'm sorry, I did not graduate. Yes, I did graduate high school. And so, anywho,
none of us are going to go all the way to Texas to verify your.
Anyway.
So you're good.
Yes, my mom actually got remarried, and she moved here in 2005. And so I was in the middle of a semester where I couldn't necessarily leave. So she moved here. And I just stayed back and worked 2 jobs and went to school, stayed with my sister, and it was becoming a lot. And so she was like,
that sounds like a lot. 2 jobs. Tell me about the 2 jobs. I always love hearing about high school jobs because I think of mine here in Ponchatoula. What were the 2 high school jobs before we get to the rest of the
I've
story?
always worked in like movies. So this was like when Blockbusters were still a thing. And so I worked at a local place.
For the kids at home, let's tell everybody because
no
some folks watching may not know what Blockbuster is.
Yes. So that's where you actually go to a store and you go in. They have DVDs, and they also had at the time VCR rentals.
Yeah.
You actually go in, you pick what you want, you go home, you watch it, and you return it the next day. maybe. If not, you have late fees that are definitely associated with that.
Yeah, and the late fees were crazy. It was like firstborn child Rumpelstiltskin level. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No. So you're working at Blockbuster, and what was the other job?
So it was kind of like a Blockbuster. So the first one was just like a mom and pop store.
Gotcha.
And then
so your town sounds a little like Ponchatoula, and that you don't even have a Blockbuster.
Yes, it's Ponchatoula with like a little bit of Ponchatoula has more flair than where I'm from. So we only have one stoplight, and I think now the population is like 7,000 maybe.
Oh wow.
And so when I moved here, I thought that I would like this was city. I was like, oh my God, like we're in the city. And I thought Hammond was like Houston. Like, this is amazing.
So Billy Gueldner comes like he's some big city guy from the big time.
Absolutely.
And he's a Champ Cooper boy. I just love it.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's
so in
perfect.
college, I still worked the 2 jobs, but they were just in different places, and they were for the same company, but they were in 2 places, and they were still in movies.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, sorry to derail. I know you were giving us your whole story there, but I have a thing about that. And while we're talking about old movie stores, shout out to the gang, the Williams family with Action Video of Ponchatoula back in the 80s. Mandi, I see your eyes getting big. You remember? Is that a blast from the past? Yes. You could not only rent videos, and back then it was just VHS at my age. You could see I have more gray in my beard before you guys, but you could also rent Nintendo games and Nintendo systems. My parents we told them they were very mean. They wouldn't let us get a Nintendo. So the Layrisson boys had to save up our pennies and rent an actual Nintendo device on the weekends just to play Super Mario Brothers. But those are fond memories. So Dr. Gueldner, what comes next? You're working 2 jobs. You mentioned your mom marries, moves here.
Yes.
How did you eventually make your way to Ponchatoula?
So she was like, there is literally a university 10 minutes down the road, and you don't have to work. So I was like, what?
Amen.
I feel like I've always worked. And so I was like, okay, I'm in, but I have to wait until the semester ends. So I moved here in the summer of 2005. And the whole spill of like not working didn't last long because I was like, I knew nobody except for my mom, my sister, and my stepdad. And so
is your sister younger or older?
My
What's the age gap
younger.
there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, she's younger. She is 5 years younger than me.
Oh wow. Okay. So she's still a little kid living with mom at that point, basically.
Yes. Yeah. She was actually she went to Ponchatoula High School.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so then I moved here, and I realized that I needed to get a job because I didn't know anybody, and I just wanted I'm not a big social person, but I just wanted to be out of the house.
Sure.
It was very every day the same thing. I saw the same people. I went to the same class. I saw the same people in those classes. I didn't talk to any of those people. I really wanted to. I was nervous. I was like, how do I make friends? And so
you were too shy?
Yes, absolutely. So I went and got a job at Winn-Dixie.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of where the whole socializing and how I met Billy was actually through a mutual friend that I met while working at Winn-Dixie.
Well, Billy's boys were the Winn-Dixie crew, including my little brother Louie, who you of course know. But WD was the place. That was the place to be back in the day. That was a tough get as a job, Yeah. Mandi, we're going to switch gears back again here because I missed you. Tell us about your first job. What were you doing back in the high school, college days to make a living?
My first job was at Baskin Robbins.
Oh, nice.
And I think I made $4.25 an hour because there was a tip jar on the counter. So that's all we made hourly I guess in high school. So that gives you.
No, that was the minimum wage back then, because I thought I was hot stuff at Hi Ho making $4.50, and it was like a mark of pride that we made more than minimum wage. But yeah, $4.25 was the deal.
$4.25, the big bucks. That's what I did. Honestly, I didn't stay there long. My mom hated it. I was really focused on my academics in school, and my mom hated the fact that I didn't leave work on the weekdays till like 11:30 at night. So
yeah,
that didn't last long. But I think my second job may have been Sears in the mall.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Now we're dating ourselves. They don't exist anymore.
I know.
It's sad. It was a great store. But, that was also a great place Ponchatoula folks would go work. I think back, and like my buddy Jay Stricker was there for a while. Had all these cool guys getting gigs at Sears. It was a good place to work.
It was a lot of folks. I had a Sears reunion the other night at a wedding. A lot of folks I met, a lot of friends who were older than me. I started kind of young, working there, but yeah, just all those cool spots around him and Mr. Goldman.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Goldman. Hey, was that the mall location?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Nice. That's great. Yeah, blast from the past. Well, for me, it was Hi Ho and Berrytown Produce, and I look back fondly on those days. But I've always been intrigued by people's first jobs, and it's such a great place to learn. I tell folks all the time, I learned lessons at Hi Ho that we implement in my practice here today, just about treating people with respect and doing business right. So, folks, we're here with Dr. Crystal Gueldner and Mandi Holland-Bernard, and we have a few comments here I want to share. So, to our viewers, if you're watching this live, you have the ability to comment, and I'll do my best to bring it up here on the screen, as I've just done here for Tracy, to share with these guys. So I may butcher Tracy's last name. Forgive me if I do. Tracy Cubias or Cubius. She says that you ladies are amazing and you make your patients feel good. She recommends your clinic 100%. So Tracy, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I agree. I have had nothing but amazing experiences at your clinic. Y'all do a wonderful job, and we're blessed to have you right here in downtown Ponchatoula. We will, of course, talk about your practice at Crystal Clear Eye Care here later in the show. Mark Verbois, thank you for tuning in. He says that he's so grateful to have amazing businesses like Crystal Clear Eye Care here in Ponchatoula. Dr. Gueldner and Mandi are amazing with their patients, and he's proud to have y'all in town. Mark, thank you. I couldn't agree more. But then Mandi, he does say he prays for Crystal for having to put up with both Mandi and Billy.
Yes, thanks, Mark. Not so much Mandi, but Steve praying for me for Billy.
Yes. Well, speaking of the great Coach Billy Gueldner, of course, a dear friend of my brother and me, and our whole gang. Why don't we get into the topic of love stories here a little bit? Tell us about how you met Billy, and how you ended up being a happy wife with a beautiful daughter, and and all that. Tell us about the Billy Gueldner love story.
Sure. The story I tell is a little different than the story Billy tells. Billy's a great storyteller, and he likes to put extras in. But the end story is...
You didn't see my wife on the walk in here, huh? Because Brandy was here earlier with the kids. She says the exact same thing about me. So, yeah, please continue. But I've heard that before.
So my friend Brittany that I met at Winn-Dixie, her brother and Billy's brother played ball together. And, of course, Billy coached them growing up. Okay. So we were just out and about, and Brittany ran into Billy, and they started chit-chatting, and so she brings over Billy to introduce us to the girls that we were with. And little did I know, I didn't know he wanted to meet me. And I'm very shy and very quiet. So I was the last one to get introduced. And then I was like, hey, nice to meet you. And I just turned around and kept talking or kept in the conversation. So he walks away, and my friend Brittany was like, you were so rude. He wanted to meet you, and that was our whole purpose. He's a good guy. You need to go back and say you're sorry. And I was like, well, how was I supposed to know that? I was like, I didn't mean to be rude.
Wait, now, truthfully, you're just being shy, or is it that you have game? I mean, you can admit this now. You got a little game.
I have no game, and I'm just very shy. No, Billy
Billy has
thinks that he might have game.
Look, I have to interject here. I have to interject.
Oh, please do, Mandi. Give it.
This brings us to the spot in life where I met Crystal. So she and I started out in eye care together. She was actually, I always tell this story, she was my best helper. When she just started out, and she was trying to get in optometry school. I don't even know if you weren't done with Southeastern yet. No. So I was always swamped in the optical, and they would send in their best help, which was Crystal. Always thrilled to see her come, because she was interested in eye care. She knew that's kind of the direction she was going. So she was the best. I mean, and Crystal, I can't speak enough for how much of a hard worker she was. So it was always a good thing when I saw Crystal come. But in our downtime at work, she started to tell me about this boy that she met. And I never asked a name. I heard story after story of this boy who had apparently so much game.
So much.
So I come to find out one day, I asked, I'm like, is he from around here? And she says, yes, he's from Ponchatoula. I'm like, well, who is he? I may know him. And she says, Billy Gueldner. I'm like, all these love stories have been about Billy Gueldner.
That's great.
I mean, but that was a funny. I remember that like it was yesterday when she finally admitted that the man of her dreams is Billy Gueldner. Love the girl.
That's funny. That's funny.
It was, and they've been, I mean, perfect ever since.
Well, hey, but here's the thing, Billy. If you're watching, no, thank you for the color commentary. That's beautiful. And here's the thing. I remember the parties at Billy and Lucas's house. I mean, back in the day, we kept it PG. Dr. Gueldner, Crystal, don't worry, it wasn't anything. But the thing about Billy is, Billy, if you're watching, you've got game, just not nearly as much as you think. And the fact that Crystal became your bride is God's grace, not Billy's game, in my opinion. But that's cool. That's a cute story.
All of those parties that you're talking about, he would text me to come to those, and I'm like, no. I don't, like at that time, I barely, we met and we hung out for a while, and then he went his way, I went my way, but he always contacted me. I guess that was his, like, let me just, let me see if I can fish her in. And so, anywho,
I remember that well, Crystal, because he would talk about you and like maybe you were coming, but it got to be like that, joke, like a girlfriend in Canada situation, right? Oh no, there's this beautiful girl from Texas. She's going to be here later, and you never showed. So I remember that part of the mix. Yeah, but please go on. I think I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And then, so he would always text and like, hey, I'm having a get together, like come over. And I didn't know anybody. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, thanks for the invite. And so then one night we just like ran into each other, and it's been, we've been together ever since.
Very cool. Very cool. And now the best part of the story is, and hashtag Zoe in love. Tell us about that beautiful redheaded baby girl of yours and this, latest chapter of motherhood and parenthood.
Yes. So Zoe was definitely a planned baby. Everything in my life is planned.
Another thing you have in common with Parker Layrisson.
And if you know Billy was not in any hurry to have a family, and neither was I. I just so I graduated optometry school in 2013, May. Okay. And then we got married in July of that same year. So
and y'all got married somewhere cool on the beach or something, right?
We went to
Tell us about that.
Yeah, we went to Jamaica to get married. Okay. So there was no way that I was going to be able to. One, I lived in San Antonio at the time, and he lived here. There was no way that financially I was already up to my eyeballs in student loan debt.
Student debt, yeah.
Yes, and absolutely. And then
I can relate.
No way that I could plan a wedding it wasn't going to happen. It was too stressful. So I convinced him to let's go and have a destination wedding, and he was all about it. And we went to Jamaica. We got married.
Yeah, very cool. I remember seeing photos of so many friends down there having fun. And
we had about 60 or 62 people that came to our
y'all had a crew, and I'll admit to being a little jealous. Billy's chimed in here. Coach, I'm glad you're watching. He says, definitely God's grace getting in, Crystal. No game here for sure. So keeping it real. Billy, I love your profile pic.
He's been trying to plan like a reunion going back for a 10-year reunion. So you'll get the invite.
Oh yeah, oh
To Jamaica.
that sounds like my jam. No, yeah, look, count me in. I love the sound of that.
Yeah.
Well, Mandi, same question to you. Tell us about your love story and how you ended up with these beautiful little kiddos and this wonderful life that you've got.
Well, I met Brian. It was a slow night in Hammond. He had just come from a ski trip in Montana. So he was out and about, and there weren't many people out. I was out with some friends having dinner, I think at Mariners. And we walk over. Yes, I'm admitting I met him at the ground door. We walked over to the ground door, and we were the only.
And this is not the newly remodeled fancy, we serve, street tacos brown door. This is the old school brown door.
Yes, the old brown door.
Nice.
Himself and his friend were the only guys in there. And we got to talking, and I didn't pass out my number too freely, but he I don't know, we were playing pool in the back, and he asked for it. My friend Kelly McGee Jenkins,
Okay.
Kelly,
Yeah.
she and Bo were together.
Bo's wife, right?
Yes, Bo's wife. She and Bo were with us that night, and Kelly said, "Oh, he's got pretty eyes. You got to give him your number. You got to give him your number." And I was like, "Oh, Kelly, I don't know." So she talked me into it, and he had just come off the plane. He was still wearing his ski hat with like the tassels and the pom-pom thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
A great way to show off that you have, ski money, right? You're here in hot Hammond, Louisiana, but you're letting folks know. That's a good move. That's cool.
Yeah, super cool. So we she convinced me, and it was literally, and I still tell them that. I tell them they're completely responsible for everything that happened since then. But she talked me to give him my number. We spoke on the phone for a month or so, and I don't know, when we met, we realized that our parents had grown up together in the same.
Oh, small world! Come on.
He left Ponchatoula. He went to St. Joseph in Ponchatoula until 3rd grade, and he left and finished out school in Santa in St. Parish. So that's where he had actually recently built a home in Gonzales when we met, and for the first long time of our relationship, we drove back and forth. I lived in the apartments by Gabriel's, and he had just built the house there. We drove back and forth, and like, what are we doing here? I was able, with the same company where I met Crystal, was able to transfer to a position at an office a little closer to there. So I got married. I was in Gonzales for almost 6 years, where Berkeley was born when we lived there.
Cool.
And then Gage came a little after, once we decided to move home.
Yeah. So Berkeley's born there 10 years ago. Tell us a little bit about the difference between doing it in Gonzales, the Santa Monica area, and being here. I mean, you had the same job, same profession, both places. What's the difference in kind of the professional scene, the culture, et cetera?
I actually worked in Denham Springs, but we lived in Gonzales, and basically across the street was Prairieville. So we were really on the outskirts of Baton Rouge. So completely different. I mean, our closest places that we shopped were Seagan Lane, where, that's night and day from the Ponchatoula Walmart. So
sure.
Yeah, so it was a lot different. It grew really fast while we were there. We lived in an awesome area. I loved it for the time that we were there, but we were both started out in Ponchatoula. That's where our family. Yeah,
your hearts were here. Well, tell us a little bit about you being gone that long. What did you miss most about Ponchatoula? While you were gone.
Friends. I'm
people.
A social person. The people, the small community. At first, it felt good to go to Walmart with your hair in a hat and your makeup on at the Gonzales Walmart or the Prairieville Walmart, and you didn't know anyone. So that was
right. Yeah.
That got old.
Yeah.
You don't, maybe in that time in life, that's not what you wanted, but I guess as I got older, I love to run into people I know and people I haven't seen since maybe high school, and, catch up and have a conversation. And so, I miss that aspect. I miss having my friends close by and my family close by. I'm super close with.
Very cool. And I felt the same way when I lived out of town, whether it was Houston or Washington, D.C. or New Orleans. I love being in all those places, and they gave me wonderful chapters of life, but my heart was always here for the same reasons you mentioned. Crystal, coming from a different perspective as someone who moved here later in life, in your 20s, what struck you about Ponchatoula when you got here? And it can be good and bad, but you know, you're leaving Texas, you're coming here. What was it like? What were your thoughts as an outsider?
It's all good stuff. I mean, I said it earlier, this is home away from home. It reminds me so much of my home, except, I mean, I could literally, where I used to live in Palacios, I could literally walk down the road and I could see the water. So maybe that's the one thing that now that I'm older, I took for granted when I was younger and living in Texas. So maybe that's the one thing. And of course, all my family is in Texas. The only family I have here that live here are just my mom and my sister.
Right,
so
right.
All my other
Are you able to get back often to see them, or do they visit here ever? What's that like?
So
I know you have a close-knit family.
Yes, my family comes here pretty often. Before Zoe and before COVID, we would go. I felt like all the time we were going to Texas. So it's a little bit harder now with Zoe. You know, she's only 10 months. So we're actually taking a week vacation at the end of July to go to Texas. And so packing up all the things that Zoe needs. Like, we have to go a week. We can't do a weekend anymore because it's just so much stuff.
Right. Isn't it amazing how much stuff you have to pack once you get this little person?
Yes.
And it's like, bam, you know.
Yes, she's taken over. Yeah.
Well, we've got more friends chiming in here. Tammy and Eric Turner say that they love Crystal and Mandi. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate y'all watching. We've been talking here with Dr. Crystal Gueldner and Mandi Bernard of Crystal Clear Eye Care, and talking about their backgrounds growing up both in Texas and here in Ponchatoula, and kind of how they got here or how they got home once they left. Why don't we, take a pivot here? And before we get into your careers and what you're doing now, let's talk about, because we've been talking about family and especially the love stories and the kids and all. Let's just talk about other people in your life that have had a particular impact on you. It can be your parents, friends, just tell us about the mentors in your life that you feel like contributed to you being the women that you are here today.
Who wants to go first? So definitely my mom. My mom was my mom and dad for a very long time. And she was strict and she meant business. But now that I'm older, I totally get why she did it. And I appreciate it for it. And I appreciate it. And she brought us up in church every Sunday. There was no excuse. And so when you're young and it's like, sometimes you just feel like, man, why do we always have to go to church? But now I get it. And I am, I wake up and it says, if you come to church, if you raise your kids to be in church, there's a point in my life where I just felt like I get up and I want to go to church for me, not because I was raised in church. So because she laid that foundation, that's awesome. And that's when I think about my mom, I think about how awesome, and I'm going to get emotional.
And you're so right about how important it is.
Thank you so much, Mom.
That's awesome. I hope she's watching, and if not, of course, this is recorded, and so she can see it. That's really neat, and I agree wholeheartedly. And I know that that's such an important part of my wife and my values, now in raising our own kids. Do you and your mom attend the same church now, or do y'all go to different churches?
Yes, we go to the same church.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Mandi, same question to you. Who have been your mentors?
I'm definitely going to get emotional. It was by far my mom.
We've got tissues there across, Crystal, if you look across the conference table there.
I lost my mom in December.
I'm so sorry.
But I have to give her all the props because she was 110% responsible for everything good in me, she was the hardest worker, the person that you pass, and she just enters the room and makes you feel good and happy. And it's more for me about mimicking her in the way that the light that she had. That means more to me, and that is more of an example to me than any academics or anything I can learn in a book or teacher, professor I can meet. Just seeing her from start to finish, and she was such a tough person, but you never knew. She always had a smile on her face, and was, giving you compliments, giving you the best hugs, and yeah, I had one of the best for sure. But
she sounds like such a giver. What a blessing to have her, and
absolutely.
she must have been so proud of the woman you've become. Because as you describe her, I'm kind of taking mental notes of how much of that applies to you and how you are. And I'm sure Crystal would echo that.
Yes,
working with you every day.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that. I know it's hard to get personal on live video stream, but I think our watchers, our viewers, they really appreciate getting real.
Yeah.
Let's change gears a little bit from the folks who raised us and made us who we are to these little boogers running around your houses. And Crystal, starting with Zoe, we'll give Mandi a little break here. Tell us a little bit about Zoe and what she's like.
So Zoe is fun and she's always happy. Right now she's in the mama girl stage and I love it. And it's funny.
Was she in Daddy's Girl before that, or did she kind of imprint on you more from day one?
Like at one point she was, and so Billy's staying home with her during the summer because he is off in the summer. So I just had all these fears that she's gonna bond with him all day and then not want anything to do with me.
Right.
It's the exact opposite. So when I get home, and maybe just because she misses me, I don't know. But she's
like, I'm done with Dad. Yes. Go for a run. Take a break. Get out of here.
Yes. So she's at the point where if I grab her and Billy tries to take her, she's like turning away and clinging on to me.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying every bit of it. She, from a very young age, she just hasn't been like a lovey-dovey, let me cuddle and hold you kind of baby. So when she does want me to hold her, I take advantage of it. So
very cool. Well, you got to watch out because go ahead. I'm sorry.
We make this joke because Billy's friends call Billy half Gueldner, and they call his brother the whole Gueldner because his brother just excelled at everything. And so and so it's funny now because it's like I look at Zoe and she doesn't really look like me, and so she's a whole Gueldner too.
Oh, no doubt. There's no denying her lineage with that red hair, and she's she's got the look. She's full Gueldner all the way. Yes. I remember your Billy's buddies giving him hell. We would sometimes go watch Cody play football together, and Ben and all those other guys. They really rode Billy. It's kind of fun. Yes. Of course, he gives as good as he gets. So there was payback there. Well, Mandi, tell us about Berkeley and Gage. What are these little guys like?
Oh man. Berkeley's my quiet child. She is, behind closed doors. She's a whole different girl, but she's super shy. She's gonna, she's observing the room before he goes in full on. He makes friends with everyone in the room. He sings to them. He tells them stories. I mean, our coworker Michelle looks forward to all of the Gage stories because he's got an imagination like no other, and you just never know what's going to come out of Gage's mouth. He has recently started. You got to see that he's recently started t-ball, and he's a slugger, as I told you at the game. He's one out there. He's got it mastered.
He's got a hammer.
Oh yeah, for sure. And my daughter Berkeley, she loves gymnastics, and
cool.
That's what she's into now. So they're both.
Does she go to a little Cypress Point place right here?
She absolutely does. Yes. She does. Yep.
My boy Luke does that over there, but he doesn't. They're very smart over there from a marketing perspective. There's something to learn here. They've rebranded the young boys gymnastics. I'm sure it's for both genders, but you're right, the ninja stuff. Yeah. So my boys are infatuated with Ninja Turtles, and they think they're doing ninja training, and they're totally into it. If we called it gymnastics, they might take a pass. Who knows?
No. But that's pretty awesome for the guys. My little dude wants to be a little ninja, but I need to keep him away from contact sports.
Good idea. Well, you mentioned the ninja thing. As you guys noticed when you walked in up the porch at my office here, we had that airplane on the roof. We had a red paper airplane on the roof. It was, believe it or not, a motorized paper airplane. But when we got it stuck up there about 30 minutes before the two of you arrived, my boys said that they needed the Ninja Turtle skills to get up there. We're like, how are we going to get it down? We need a ladder. And James, my 3-year-old, is like, I need my ninja skills. And, Luke's like, ninjas can't fly. And, they got into a whole thing. But that ninja thing's a big deal at that age. So that's cool. It sounds like you guys have some really remarkable kids. And I know they bring a lot of joy to your lives. And you're clearly great mothers. So as we transition into the talk about crystal clear eye care and your professions, why don't you each give me a little perspective on what it's like, or what, beginning with the challenge of being a great mom, being a great professional, a great worker. I mean, I know just from the dad perspective, that can be tough. I'm sure it's much tougher as a mother. Tell me about that. What's been your experience, and kind of what have you learned along the way? And what are your thoughts on working? And I mean, clearly the two of you kick butt at work. How do you do that and still be the great moms that you are?
It's a learning process and a juggling act, but I have to say my wonderful boss friend makes it so much better and easier because she's only recently a mom. But when all of us at work a couple of us at work have children, and as soon as we moved from across the street to our new building, there's a section of the building that we weren't occupying. So what does our sweet doctor go do but buy a sofa and a TV so our kids will have a place to hang out when they're there. So they love.
That's cool. Wow. And Crystal, you did that before you had your child.
Yeah, before she ever had children. Right. She's been from day one. Family is first. We love our patients, and we give 100% when we're there. But our number one job, and she can relate now, is being a mother. So that's why our hours aren't as extensive as some, because we are working mothers. That's one thing she told me from day one, that's going to be, we always have to take time, and we don't want to miss all those awesome firsts. And, it's such a relief for me. It doesn't feel like work, because it's such a relief for me to know that she has always been so understanding. Now she can relate. Yes. And she doesn't know how grateful we all are for her, for being that way, so much to the point of, buying the TV and the couch for our kids to come hang out.
That's very cool. I did something similar here. We have a kids room, but the mistake I made was putting it immediately adjacent to my office. So when things get wild, I can hear that door bumping, and, sometimes it feels like you're about to get raided or something. You're like, who's in there, But that's fun. Well, Crystal, what about you? Like Mandi mentioned, you're newer to the Supermom gang, but you're clearly excelling here in year one. Tell us about what the challenges have been and what you've learned, and all your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely still transitioning into the whole balance act of, I barely felt like I was doing my part being businesswoman and wife to Billy. And then we have Zoe, and Billy goes on the back burner, and Zoe is number one, and then it's Clay, and then I back is Billy still back burner. But,
back burner Billy, I think a new nickname's in order here.
So it's still a work in progress. I can't tell you the last time I cooked, just because when I come home, I want to spend time with Billy. Billy cooks when he can, and we just eat what we have in the refrigerator, or sometimes it's 9 o'clock at night, and I'm just like, guess I'm not eating dinner tonight. I don't know. It happens.
Well, hey, that's one of the perks of living in a place like Ponchatoula with so many great restaurants and, Hammond, Ponchatoula. I mean, your kid's not going to starve, you don't have to be in there like Martha Stewart cooking it yourself, right?
And I do have a great village. So my mom is wonderful. His parents are wonderful. They come over.
Oh, yeah.
When I first transitioned, coming back full time from maternity leave, his parents would come over in the morning, and then my mom would come over in the afternoon. And, even now, I feel like I got a group, but still my mom will do some laundry, and I'm like, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
And of course, he's got 99 aunts, uncles, and cousins, right?
So we do.
The Dominguez clan is giant.
Yes, and so even then, like, I wasn't necessarily happy with my body after having a baby. So like we would have family come over so I could do like a 30-minute workout, but still like be engaged. And like, so my workout equipment's in the living room area so I can like see her. So yeah, so it's a work in progress, and I'm grateful for the village. And now I get why people say it takes a village, because it really does. Definitely. And I have a big one, and I'm not ashamed to use them, and I love every single one of them.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let me ask you a quick question. If you could go back to your, bachelorette or pre-mother wife, versions of yourselves, what advice would you give to young women who want to be moms like you one day and kick butt, but aren't there yet? I mean, are there any advices like, hey, do this while you can, or, avoid this or prepare for that? What thoughts do you have for folks, that haven't been, where you've been yet as moms?
Well, mine was planned, so I didn't have I knew what I was getting myself into. From start, I didn't know all of the aftermath. Like, everybody tells you, the emotions, and everybody tells or tries to tell you what it's like, those first couple of days, months with a new baby, and everybody's experience is a little bit different, and I had a hard time initially. I did have great friends, so I think having your circle first and knowing who you can call on at midnight, at 2 a.m, saying, hey, like, I need help. Also too, like me and Billy were married for a very long time, so we did do the whole traveling. Crystal Eye Care was our baby, for 5 years before we had Zoe. So that was one of my main things, and why we kept pushing back trying to have a child, because I just couldn't imagine still getting Crystal Clear Eye Care where it is now, and then trying to have a baby along with that.
Yeah,
things happen, and you just have to kind of roll with it. And what I have learned, and she will like vouch for this, I'm such a planned, scheduled person that now I'm kind of more laid back when it comes to stuff, because you have to be with the baby. Like, of course. There's, you can try to be scheduled and you can try to do this. And I read books. I was like, my baby's going to sleep by 8 weeks. That didn't happen. She just started sleeping through the night like last month. So,
Yeah, no, you make plans and God laughs.
Yeah,
Mandi, what's your experience been? What advice, would you give?
Give yourself as much, and I've said this over and over recently to her, like, don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself some grace, because, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot that you have to juggle, and we didn't wake up with all the knowledge and skills to do it all. So, I mean,
nobody does.
I had to learn. I didn't feel that way right at the beginning, but I feel like I'm a little more seasoned now. So, I do realize that ask for help, which I was never good at, and give yourself grace. Take some time for yourself, because if mama's not happy, nobody's happy.
Right. I'm from the Happy Wife, Happy Life school of thought. That's very much in concert with that. But I love what I heard from both of you, which is don't be afraid to ask for help, because let's face it, it's hard, and there's just no two ways about that. And everybody's situation is different. But when you're just getting started and the kid's not sleeping through the night, and none of them sleep through the night from the start and forever, right? I mean, it's just dealing with those fevers and the loud, noises and the messes and whatnot. The lack of sleep. It's like, fog of war almost. But I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I think that's really important. And I feel like we've buried the lead, and forgive me for waiting this long to dig into finally Crystal Clear Eye Care, because I know tons of people want to hear about your practice and hear about the great things you're doing and kind of how it got started. And why don't we just begin there? Tell us about, I think you, Mandi, especially, you've alluded to kind of how you guys got started in eye care and meeting up together long before Crystal even went to, school to become a doctor. But tell us a little bit about, how the clinic got started, and then we'll move into kind of what y'all do, both as clinic wide. And of course, I'm going to want to ask each of you about your individual jobs, but just tell us about, what got Crystal Clear Eye Care started. What's the story there?
I think it was just something I was supposed to do. Like, from a very young age, I just knew that I wanted to be an eye doctor. And then when I started working in eye care, I was like, I can do this. And so the whole idea was that I was going to go to optometry school, and I just kind of said, like, I'm just going to be on my own and open up my own practice. And then my name's Crystal. So then throughout the years, I'm like,
yeah, what a godsend that is, right?
Yes, and I still.
That's like there's a lawyer whose last name is Justice, and I'm like, that's just not fair, you know?
Yes. So it is still funny today when people say, "Oh, what's your name?" I'm like, "Oh, my name is Crystal Gueldner." And they're like, "Oh, I get it, Crystal Clear." So when I graduated optometry school, the student loan debt that you acquire for a professional school where you can't work, you got to go 4 years. It's it's a full-time job, basically going to a professional school. I just knew at some point that I was going to open up my own clinic, and that takes money. So I took a retail job initially. I got paid well, and but I still lived like I was on a college budget. So I paid down some of my loans. You know, when you're trying to get business loans, they look at everything. And so I did that for about 2 years, and then I broke off from that and said, okay, I've been doing this for a little while in a retail type setting. Let me get back into private practice type of setting. So I worked 2 jobs for about a year and a half. And then one day she just like called me up and we just started chit chatting. And at that time, I had already kind of made my decision that I was going to start planning and making a business plan and like getting it together. This just didn't happen like, oh, let me just do this and it goes. This was like a year planning process for me to open up Crystal Clear Eye Care. So at the time, I think.
Well, it sounds like nothing happens without a detailed plan with you. So that's surprising.
I'm telling you, everything is planned in my life. It's very rare that I do anything that's, let's just go do this. So I think that she was still pregnant with Gage when I like.
The idea
was born, and she was like, well,
Gotcha.
I'm not working right now. We're playing. I don't even think, did you move back yet?
Well, I've never not worked my whole life since 15. I would have 2 or 3 jobs at a time, but we had a hard time when we moved back to find a daycare for Berkeley. So my husband offered for me to stay home, and I hesitantly accepted. So that I could be with Berkeley until we found a good place for her to go once we moved back to Ponchatoula. And so I was at home for about a year, a little more than a year. And I texted her one day to ask her a question. My parents were having cataract surgery, just a little question that I knew she could explain to me. And that's when she says, "What are you doing now?" And I said, "I'm home, and I'm ready. I'm ready to get out of this house."
Yeah, so she
you gotta come work for me.
I know. It's telling me the idea.
Perfect timing.
That sounds awesome. And I have to say, like I said before, Crystal, I've always had so much respect for her because of her work ethic. She just is a get it done kind of person. But let me just tell you, Crystal claims that she's so introverted and she's so shy. But Miss Dr. Gueldner has some dance moves.
Oh my God.
I got to see early on.
Tell us about that. Now we're getting to the good stuff.
I have to let everyone know that she's not as introverted as she is.
Okay, you have to get to know me before that side of Crystal comes out. But yes, so
Dr. Gueldner and Mrs. Hyde over here, right? Personalities.
Yes. Not that bad, but she definitely has a fun. She's married to Billy. Do you think she's a boring person? No way.
Exactly.
So she told me about the idea of this conversation, and I'm like, that's awesome. Hometown. What's better than Ponchatoula's never had an independent optometrist. She knew how to be the doctor, but while she was at optometry school, I learned more about the actual business side of things. So we always say this, God drops us the person that we need at the time that we need. Everything has fallen into place with Crystal Clear Eye Care like nothing I've ever seen. It is definitely there is divine intervention there. We joke about it, but we're serious too, because every piece has fallen together. She was what I needed at the time. I was what she needed. We were already friends and knew each other well. We had nights out together. We exercised together. We kept in touch the whole time she was gone. So it was really comfortable, natural matched up there. And
well, I think you hit on something here. It sounds like a God thing, right? I mean, you were placed in each other's lives for a purpose, and the success you've had together and the benefits that patients like I and many others have received, is the proof of that. So Mandi, let's talk a little bit about your role, because I think people don't understand what eye doctors do, and Crystal, you can educate us more on that. But there's more of a kind of probably inherent understanding in that, as opposed to maybe what you're doing, Mandi. Behind the scenes, or not all behind the scenes, but as the administrator of the practice and optician. Tell us a little bit about that transition, because you mentioned you had been in eye care, you had worked together, but kind of during this hiatus, if you will, while she's in retail, you are getting prepared to be able to help run this business and handle the business side, because folks lose track of the reality, I think, sometimes, that professional practices are businesses, doctors, lawyers, etc. CPAs, we don't just have these offices that run on autopilot, right? I mean, you have HR issues, you have, accounting issues, you have all this stuff. So tell us a little bit, Mandi, about what you do and kind of how you fit in over there.
So as things got going, she's obviously the doctor, and they don't, I guess, train you in optometry school how to run the business. So
I wish they did.
Same at law school. I can relate, Crystal.
Right. So her with the dream of having her own practice, there was a lot for her to learn. And there was a lot over the time she was away that I picked up on, and it, like I said, it just like we were what each other needed to make it work. And so there at Crystal Clear, I'm the optician. I fit you, measure you for glasses. And I'm also the practice administrator, so I try to take as much off of Crystal as I can. But with that, she's the doctor. She's got to keep up with those things, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes that you don't expect. It's there's a lot going on, and having that background and that knowledge made it a little easier for us to really start cold, because in our world, when colleagues discuss, I took over this practice, I bought out this practice, you buy those patients as well. You buy into the practice with an established patient base. So here we are, our Texas girl, and Mandi in Ponchatoula.
Right.
This is we started cold. I mean, there were days we were next door over there. We may see a patient, we may not see a patient. So I kept the office. Initially, Dr. Gueldner was only at our office a couple days a week. She actually kept the job in Baton Rouge. So I was there when we weren't seeing patients. I was able to, kind of get things going. So basically, keep up with. It's so hard to describe it because there's so many. We do so much, and there's so much under the title. I enjoy being out of the scene and taking care of the business end of things, but I can't completely get away from the patients. I absolutely love the interaction. You make great friends. I've made over the years awesome friends, that older folks that I met at this point in my life and I'm still friends with, and it's just that interaction I really enjoy, and I just feel like that's kind of, we enjoy what we do, and I feel like it emotes, you can tell. So that's a comfortable place to be with that.
It seems like each of you has a passion for patient care, and now your new job, you guys have expanded and you have a growing team. You have other responsibilities. You can't be working with patients full time, but I'm hearing that, like Crystal, you have a real passion for the people that walk through your doors and taking care of them. Is that right? Am I in the right ballpark there?
Yeah, I mean, to find somebody who is, I love my job, and to find somebody that's just as dedicated to making Crystal Clear, like, I feel like she took on Crystal Clear like it was her baby too. So to find that in someone is really rare. So that's why she's here today, because it's like, I can't do this without her. She's right. She's my girl. I can't do it without her. And I tell patients,
she's your person, as Dr. Meredith Gray might say, right?
For me, like, I'll scream it from the rooftops forever. She I have so much respect for Crystal and her work ethic and how she had this dream and it happened. You know, we've made it work, and it never feels like work. It never feels like work because I'm just happy to help her succeed because I think that much of her, and that's how I've always looked at this. And I told her, you know, if we ever feel differently, if it ever comes to a day where it's just not in our hearts, we've made a pact to let each other know, like as far as if we feel like, hey, I want to retire and move on and try something different or new, we'll never feel like we're stuck here. It's like I don't know that that'll happen because
the goal is that we're retaring together.
Yeah, we're retiring together.
It's like a death pact, right? We're in this together, Thelma and Louise style. Well, you guys are very complementary pieces in so many ways. Some are just the geography of where you were born, right? We've got this well-known, popular local girl and this out-of-towner who, is getting to know the community. Now, of course, Crystal, you're a mainstay, but in the early days and just everything, your background, your training, it all seems to kind of puzzle pieces fit so well. It's fun to see. So, Mandi, you mentioned you just want to help her succeed. Well, Dr. Gueldner, succeed you have. Clearly, I mean, I drive by your practice on my way to and from work and to and from, my house is on 8th Street. So I pass by several times when I'm going home for lunch all the time. You guys are packed, doing well. Tell us about what it's like to be a primary care eye doctor, because obviously we know about contact lenses and glasses and vision, but you're also dealing with ocular disease. Tell us a little bit about your job, the nuts and bolts of eye doctor here in Ponchatoula.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely goes beyond just glasses and contacts. And it's, the reason why they say it's, your eyes are the window to your soul is because I can literally see your soul. Not really, but I mean, that's the only place in the body that we can see blood vessels, that I can see tissue. And those blood vessels and tissue are the same blood and tissue that you have in other parts of your body. And so there's many times where systemic conditions can actually start to affect your vision that sometimes I see that are undiagnosed, or sometimes they are diagnosed. And we got to do a better job of getting that particular condition under control. And that's why if you are watching this and you do see a primary care and they're saying, hey, you need to get your eyes examined, that's exactly why. So there's many times, where, somebody may not know that they're diabetic. And, I see something, I'm like, hey, let's go to your primary care. Let's get some blood work done. Sometimes it's a little bit more serious than that, where I have to order, MRIs and CTs, or it's an emergency thing. Hey, you need to go directly to the ER. And so, it just goes beyond just glasses and contacts. I enjoy all aspects of vision care. The only thing that I do not do is any type of surgery. So I don't do cataract surgery or any type of laser condition or laser procedures. I'm licensed to do laser procedures. I just don't currently do those at the moment, just kind of where I am in our practice.
Sure. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Let me ask a question for each of you in whatever order you like, but what is it you love about your job? When you wake up and think about the things you love most about your profession, what tops the list?
Well, for me, to be able to give somebody sight and to make it better is awesome. So I, at a very young age, needed glasses and contacts, and this is the whole reason why I became an eye doctor. That was implanted in me. Like, I just remember very vividly, kids come in and they're terrified of me because, we have to do dilation drops and we have to shine these bright lights in your eyes. But me as a kid looking back, I enjoyed it because what that meant? I got new glasses and I could see better. So that's kind of where I am as far as what I enjoy doing. Also too, just the patient interaction is great. I can do one-on-one. I am really shy, but you get me an exam room.
No, we're an hour into the interview. Nobody believes that anymore. We've seen you talk to us for the last hour.
You get me in the exam room and we start talking eyeballs. I'm all about it. I just love it. I don't know why. And it's I love everything about it. Even if you don't have anything wrong with your eyes and you're just coming just to get a regular health check. Like, I like to look in the back of your eye and see your retina, your optic nerve. Like, everybody is different, and everybody has, even though you have the same structures, they all kind of look a little bit different. So even though I'm doing the same thing every day, all day long, it's still very enjoyable to me. A lot of people ask me, man, you must get tired of like 1 or 2, 3. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't really get tired of it. I feel like I could close my eyes and give somebody a pair of glasses because I do it so often. But it's the end product that makes it worth it to me. Like when somebody gives me glasses, or somebody troubleshooting contacts is like my jam. Like, I love it. Like, I get that all the time. Oh, I don't want to bother you. I'm like, please come back. Like, I like to do that. Like, I want to make you I want to be able to give you the best of both worlds in contact lenses. And sometimes it's difficult, but I absolutely enjoy it.
Yes.
Well, I'm sensing that you just have the heart of a helper. I mean, you want to help people the way you were helped as a child to be able to see. And Mandi, I know you share that trait, but tell us about what you love about your job.
There's nothing that honestly I don't love. I love the people that I work with. I love the atmosphere. I love the patient interaction. I love what I do because I say this all the time. You've never mastered what we do. You will never master it because there's so many different scenarios and situations, and just when you feel like you may get bored a little bit, something you've got a new challenge that you have to figure out, whether it be finding the right glasses to fit this person, or finding this patient a primary care doctor with it, because when she finds those patients who do need further testing, a lot of times there are a lot of closed networks with primary care in our area. So it's really hard for those folks to get in. So we can spend a whole day calling everywhere around. And when we finally find that patient, their doctor, and just go in that extra mile, and to see that it's super rewarding for me to go the extra mile. I'm a problem solver. Like, I'm not going to hand it to someone else. I want to have, I want to help you solve your problem. So, I don't know. This is fitting to my personality more than I ever imagined. And I've been in this business I'm coming on 15 years now. And I'm still not bored. I still feel like I have so much to learn, and I'm eager to learn. So
well, you hit on a topic that I feel applies to my profession too, which is there's always room to learn. I've represented 1,000 people in my career at 19 years, and car wrecks are another thing that seems pretty similar, right? There's only so many versions of it: the rear end, the left turn, etc. But because every person I represent is different, the challenge is different in every case, because they've got different preferences and needs and fears and desires. And I'm sure that your profession is real similar. We've kept you over an hour, and I promised I'd let you go in time to go see those beautiful babies and kids of yours. So we're going to close out with a question here for each of you, which is pretty broad, which is just, if you have anything on your heart and your head, anything at all that you think would benefit our viewers, please share it with us. So Dr. Crystal, with you, as a closer, is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers before we go?
Well, I feel like we haven't done the best job at advertising, but it's mainly because we just have a lot going on in our personal lives. So a lot of people still don't know about Crystal Clear Eye Care. And so we're located at 139 West Oak Street. I do a variety of age groups for comprehensive eye exams. And it's not just for glasses and contacts. At some point, everybody needs to get an eye exam just for an ocular health standpoint.
Right.
We take the majority of medical insurance. We are on a few vision insurances. And that's a whole other ballgame that maybe another day we can have an education.
Take more than an hour to get through that.
Insurance, right. The difference. Yeah. That is probably what keeps us as far as on the phones a lot, is trying. Right. We are an open door. You're going to know from day one when you step in what your benefits are, what you're going to be responsible for, if your benefits aren't going to cover things. So that's another thing. We're as transparent as you could possibly be. Right.
That's great. And Mandi, same question to you. What would you like to share with our viewers before we go?
Some of the things that we've run into is don't, it's, a lot of people feel, we've answered the question several times over the phone. Do I have to have a referral to see you? Do I have to have vision insurance to come to, you know, to Crystal Clear Eye Care? And absolutely not. You no referrals whatsoever. Like she said, she does. This is more than contacts and glasses. It's a full eye health exam, and so many diseases and different things can be detected from that. So we want to just stress to people that it's as important as going to your annual exams for a woman or your yearly checkups with your primary care.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be discovered, monitored through just a really good, thorough eye exam. And yeah, just like she said, we don't do all of our business. Most all of our businesses come from word of mouth, which is the highest compliment.
Right. Yeah. Highest compliment you could get.
Spread the word. So if if people ask on Facebook all the time, a good eye doctor. And we always see a lot of crystal clears on there. But
yeah, every one of those for recommending me.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That is a lot. The best compliment. So spread the word.
Well, folks, thank you too for being here on the show. It's been so wonderful to share this hour with you. You're a wonderful woman. Women, I look up to you in so many ways, and I know from experience that you're great professionals that do a wonderful job. So keep up the good work. To our viewers, you know, seriously, get your eyes checked out, and there's no better place to do it. And if you live here in Ponchatoula, you can get this done right here, downtown Ponchatoula. You don't have to drive even, up the road to Hammond. So let's get it done. So thank you all. We'll be back next week. And I really appreciate you taking the time, ladies. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.